May our time together be a benefit to all people, all beings, and all life forms. Let's start with a mindful pause. If thoughts arise, let them arise, but pay them no attention. Lovingly be here now, peacefully, calmly, with a kind interest in the sensations of breathing. Gently reflect on how this course has served and benefited you so far. And expand that reflection to include how it's benefited your family and friends, your community, and all beings and all life. During our time together, if distractions arise, kindly remember your loving intentions for being here and allow these loving intentions to help you refocus and remain interested and engaged. And I've been told that when I ring my gong, none of you can hear it. Which is why you all look like you're still meditating, which is great. We are on lands that have been cared for by Indigenous people for generations. I'm specifically on Dakota land. We offer our goodwill and thanks to all Indigenous people, past and present, and we stand in solidarity with you to protect and honor your inherent dignity, culture, treaties, and lands. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming to class 6 of Mindfulness Fundamentals. Yeah. In this class, we will start with a brief check-in to see how your practice is going, then do a sound meditation, and then tonight's talk is called The Key to Fulfillment is Joyful Service. I hope you will find it inspiring and uplifting, and probably, like all my talks, a little bit challenging. So let us check in. I will put into the chat what I'm looking for from you. And then I'll explain it. So for course participants, the number of days meditated, number of days you set intentions, number of times investigated, and in general, the number of times you give thanks a day. And that could be an average or a range. And then a few sentences sharing your overall experience with the Be Here Now practice, investigations, gratitude, and meditation practices. So just kind of an overview. How did this last week go for you? I put my answer in already, and for veteran meditators, just put in the chat something you are thankful for and what about them you appreciate. So for my example this week, or my answer is 6, 6, 3, and 10 to 20. The be here now practice is hard to remember to do, but in those minutes when I remember to do it, I feel the joy of meditating while being productive. And I do feel like these practices benefit my life in a lot of different ways. All right, and Susan has 7, 5, 6, and 20. Wonderful. Oh, those are great numbers. 20. Can you give us a few sentences on how that's turning out, and maybe with the help, or you can, yeah, just over verbally?
I think that part of what helps is that on days when you don't do very much, you're supposed to journal, and I hate journaling. So I say, oh, I'm so thankful. I remembered to meditate, or I remembered to set my intention. Now I'm thankful I don't have to journal.
That is so funny.
It helps to be a part of a group where people are talking about what they're thankful for.
Yeah. Okay, good.
That really
Good.
is lifting for me.
And how is it, have you noticed any difference with there being 20 a day on average gratitudes?
It's harder to get in a bad mood. It
Perfect.
just, it's like I know which direction I'm looking every time I say I'm thankful. And so I have to spin around if I want to change direction.
Yep. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Susan. Where's everybody else's? Are people sending in theirs? For some reason, I'm not seeing them. Okay, here comes Scott's. 7, 7, 1, and 7 to 12. I appreciate the intentions, really the perfect start to my day. I found it hard to remember to investigate and or to write down moments to investigate. Gratitude is going well and it keeps my mindset so much better. Perfect. And yeah, as far as the intentions or remembering these things, I mean, you know, you just do your best. Some weeks are going to be better than others. The holiday seasons are upon us and many people are finding this to be a challenging time. The intentions, just think of it as like sitting down for 5 or 10 minutes to just kind of go through it. Don't make it into a big deal, and then do your best. For Gail, 3, 3, 0, and 5 to 10 did not do a very good job this week, so no comment. Oh, Gail, this is your opportunity to practice love and compassion for yourself. We're all doing our best. Sometimes our best just doesn't give us good numbers. That's okay. You know, you got 3 days of intention setting and 3 days of meditation in. That's great. And you're doing 5 to 10 gratitudes a day. That's wonderful. And I feel like that's up from previous weeks. So, you know, really celebrate everything, every inch you make, celebrate. And there's a lot in your report to celebrate. So given that, what other comments might you have to say about your practice? You don't know. Okay, that's fine. All right. Oh, and here's Julie's 7, 5, 3, 10. Overall, all is continuing to go great. Sometimes I don't know how to label what I'm feeling. I'm not sure what I'm experiencing. I can only recognize that it's difficult, afflictive, but don't know what it stems from or how to describe it. I welcome any suggestions on that. So, Julie, are you getting a sense that you're feeling emotional turmoil and you're not able to put words on it? Is that part of it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like occasionally I'll just have these like I know, I can tell just from like even behaviors I'm doing with my hands, I can tell that I'm like stressed or something difficult is happening, but I'm like, well, nothing seems to be wrong. I think I'm fine, but then why am I having this kind of like unsettling and some of these behaviors that are indicating to me that there might be something wrong?
Yeah. So that is totally normal. I want to validate that first of all. And then secondly, we haven't got to that part. Next week, we're going to start dealing with how do we deal with our emotions, because sometimes our thoughts generate the emotions, but sometimes the emotions are just kind of there as a habit pattern. And sometimes we have to kind of investigate the emotions and be like, hey, if you had a worldview, what is it? And like pull up from it those thoughts that it's having, those thoughts that are behind it, the worldview, the beliefs, the interpretations. And it can be challenging. And other times you just have to allow it to be, feel it, and disidentify from it. And we're going to be talking about how to do that in the next 2 classes, really like disidentifying from our emotions, which is harder to do than just disidentifying from thoughts, but it's equally as important. So don't feel bad if you're like, okay, this isn't all making sense. Like you don't have the total picture yet. And so it's understandable. Otherwise, I'm loving your numbers. Good. Okay, so I think that's good for our check-in. And we're going to move on to our meditation for this evening. During this course, we teach you a variety of different meditation styles so you can figure out which ones serve you best and what the benefits of each kind of meditation are for you. Now, tonight, we're going to learn sound meditation. During sound meditation, we anchor our awareness on the sounds that we hear. Maybe you have a lot of background noise where you are, maybe you don't. It doesn't really matter because we not only anchor it on the sounds, but also on the silence. So however you are, just go with it. And sound meditation is a good one for people who have a lot of pain in the body or who for other reasons find it difficult to anchor their awareness on the sensations of the body. So this is an option. Like if you ever, life forbid, have a horrible accident and are burned 99% of your body, like sound meditation would be the one to go to. And I'm sorry if that's triggering for people. I'm looking at some of your horrified faces and I'm like, oh, maybe that was not a good example. Okay, let's prepare for meditation. So if you have your flashback halting protocol or your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise sheet handy, you can review that now. Always remember that if ever feelings or memories start to arise that are too destabilizing for you to hold with compassionate mindfulness, then stop meditating, open your eyes, remind yourself that you're in a safe place, get up, and do whatever you need to do to feel safe and in control. And for all the rest of you, get into a comfortable position that will also help you stay awake. And if it's wise, try to keep your eyes closed during this meditation to direct your attention inward. If you feel like you're at risk of falling asleep, then you may open your eyes and gaze in an unfocused manner at something pleasing that doesn't stimulate thought. For those of you who are in well-lit rooms, if that is a distraction, you can feel free to dim the lights or turn them off to get a level that makes more sense. And with that, we're going to get started. And if you are unable to hear the gong, the meditation has started. Meditation is an act of love for ourselves and all life. Kindly anchor your awareness on your heart space. Gently invite the heart to be warm, open, and receptive. The heart communicates with us, but not with words. The heart communicates using sensations. Listen to your heart by feeling your heart. What are your heart's loving intentions for this meditation? Does your heart do this meditation out of self-love for your own benefit? That's wonderful. Who else does the heart dedicate this meditation to? Does your heart want this meditation to benefit your loved ones? Excellent. And who else? Does your heart wish well to all of the people who you don't know? Does your heart want them to be happy and peaceful? And what about the people who cause harm to others and themselves? Does your heart wish that they may be free from their misery and know their own inner love? Ignore the thoughts in the head and listen to your heart. Does your heart wish well for people who cause harm? Check in and see. Does your heart's love only extend to your own species, or does it wish well for animals of other species too? Does your heart's love only extend to living beings, or does it wish well for plant life, bacterial life, and ecosystems as well? Ignore the thoughts in the head and listen to your heart. Does your heart exclude any life form from its love, or does the heart simply love to love? What do you notice? Having listened to your heart, what are your heart's loving intentions for this meditation? Who does your heart genuinely want this meditation to serve and benefit? And if you're unable to heal your heart, if you're unable to hear your heart right now, then who do you love that you can dedicate this meditation to? When you set some honest, loving intentions for this meditation, your heart may feel alive with warmth and love. Breathe slowly and deeply into the belly. Belly breathing signals the body that all is safe and that it is okay for the muscles to relax and be calm. If able, breathe in through the nose, as nasal breathing offers many health benefits. If nasal breathing is too distracting or challenging right now, then breathe in whatever way makes the most sense for you. Allow your breaths to be slow, silent, effortless, and soothing. On each in-breath, calmly feel all of the energy and life in the body. On each out-breath, lovingly invite all of the muscles in the body to soften and relax. Breathing in, feel the energy. Breathing out, soften and relax. Gently invite all the facial muscles to relax and soften. Allow your breath to gently help you balance energetic alertness with relaxed calmness. Peacefully now, let go of all control of the breath. Compassionately allow the breath to breathe how it wants to breathe. And for now, gently anchor your awareness on the breath. Regard all of my instructions as gentle invitations. Kindly do your best to follow these invitations. At the same time, maintain your full sense of freedom throughout this meditation. Follow those invitations that feel safe, seem helpful, and align with your own inner wisdom. If an invitation is unhelpful or does not apply to you, then compassionately ignore it. During this meditation, let go of the need to do, achieve, or accomplish anything. Let go even of the need to do this meditation correctly. Lovingly do your best to follow the meditation, but also allow whatever arises to simply arise. With the body relaxed and the mind alert, we begin sound meditation. For the rest of this meditation, gently anchor your awareness on the sounds that you hear. Without straining and while maintaining comfort and ease, simply be aware of all of the sounds that you hear. The sound of my voice, Maybe car traffic in the distance. Maybe the sounds of the heater or of water moving through pipes. Kindly notice whatever sounds you hear. Calmly listen to sounds without needing to identify, judge, grasp, or think about them. Simply listen to them and allow them to be. Whenever you notice the mind is lost in thought, joyfully appreciate this moment of mindfulness, then kindly return your attention to the sounds you hear. Peacefully and mindfully take in all of the sounds you hear. Gently notice, are you the sounds, or are you the observer of the sounds? Be the knower, not the known. Be the mindful awareness that is aware of the sounds. Notice how it feels to hear sounds without identifying with them, without taking them personally, and without seeing them as me or mine. Do your best to gently notice how the brain relates to sounds when it doesn't identify with them. Hearing the sounds without identifying with them gives you an experiential example of how to skillfully relate to thoughts and sensations. Gently and mindfully notice what sounds you can hear now. While remaining calm and relaxed, what sound is the furthest away that you can hear? While remaining peaceful and at ease, what is the faintest sound that you can hear? Gently notice, are sounds dynamic, changing, and temporary? Peacefully notice, before sounds arise, what do you hear? Calmly notice, after sounds leave, what do you hear? Do your best to notice. In the dimension of sound, is there anything that is always present, stable, and unchanging? Just listen and see what you notice. If no answers arise to these questions right now, that's fine. In the dimension of sound, is there anything that is always present, stable, and unchanging? Lovingly notice what sounds you hear now. Calmly notice, do the sounds you hear arise lawfully due to causes and conditions that are outside of your control? kindly notice. Are these sounds personal or impersonal? When you allow the sounds to be as they are, what sensations do you feel? Are the feeling tones of these sensations pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, meaning neither pleasant nor unpleasant? If you were to mentally judge or hate these sounds, would that alone make them go away? If you were to mentally judge or hate the sounds, what sensations might you feel in the body? Would the feeling tones of those sensations be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? When you mentally allow the sounds to be as they are, does that prevent you from actively responding to them with skillful and appropriate action? So if you were to mentally judge or hate the sounds, who would be most affected by that? Going forward, do you want to mentally allow or mentally judge the sounds you hear? Gently now, instead of listening to the sounds, listen to the silence. I will ask a few more questions. Kindly listen and see what you notice. If no answers arise to these questions right now, that's fine. Gently notice, as you listen to the silence, how does the body feel? Kindly investigate. Is the silence affected by the sounds, or is the silence still present and unaffected? Gently listen and see. Does the silence ever change or leave? Calmly notice. Is the silence always present, stable, and unchanging? Kindly set a firm intention to carry any mindfulness and love from this meditation into your daily life. As we prepare to share the merits of our practice, gently move your awareness to anchor on your heart space or on any pleasant feelings you feel in the heart space. Doing this meditation with loving intentions has gained us many benefits. Out of generosity and love, we energetically share these benefits with all beings. If you feel any pleasant feelings, invite them to radiate out from your heart in all directions to benefit all life everywhere. You may visualize this love as white, golden, or colored light, or as a felt sense of energy. If you don't feel any pleasant feelings, then continue to feel your heart space and repeat these loving wishes silently to all life, while trying to feel the meaning behind the words. We share any merits gained from this practice with all beings and all life everywhere. May all life everywhere be free from suffering and misery. May all life everywhere abide in a deep and lasting peace. May all life everywhere know the highest forms of happiness and be at ease. May all life everywhere know their deepest essence to be joy, peace, compassion, and unconditional, boundless love. May all life everywhere be fully and permanently liberated. For those of you who can't hear the bell, which I think is all of you, the bell has been rung, the meditation is over. Feel free to mindfully stretch your arms and legs and move your body in whatever way rouses it and helps it feel good. And then feel free to stand up and take a short movement break. As you're doing this, grab your tracking log and you can put down that you did a 30-minute meditation in the correct day, which is Tuesday, November 29th. And then when you get a minute, you can write a word or phrase into the chat describing how that meditation was for you. Okay. All right. Quiet, calm, and peaceful. 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 Warmth, peace, revealing. I like that. So you may have noticed it wasn't entirely just meditation. I did a lot of investigations during that meditation. Oh, and we do have another insightful, the questions. Good. And yeah, it's just a way to explore your experience, to better understand some different things. And I don't want to say exactly what, but you hopefully started to just explore and sort of learn different things. With that in mind, by show of hands, how many of you saw sounds to be temporary? Temporary and impermanent, all of you. Good. How many of you saw sounds to be impersonal? 90% of you. Okay. How many of you saw your mental judgments of sounds caused you to suffer and most impacted your well-being during that investigation? Nope, just one of you. Okay, I see you, Lisa. Okay. Well, that might be something to look at, just to see how judgment, we've been talking about self-judgment, but judgment can be directed at anyone or anything. And when we judge sounds, like say an annoying car alarm is going off or something, which you didn't experience during the meditation for obvious reasons. But in your daily life, when that happens, we can get a lot of judgment around it. And it's important to sort of look at that judgment and look at how it impacts your body and look at how it impacts your behavior. And you might start to see this pattern of how like the judgment only hurts you. And maybe the other people, if you start blaming people and shouting and yelling or getting into a fight with them, but it doesn't generally benefit the situation. How many of you saw it made more sense to allow the sounds to be rather than to judge them? Show of hands. Oh, well, that you all looks like you all saw. Well, maybe 90% of you again. Good. And how many of you realized you could still skillfully respond to sounds even though you first mentally allowed them to be? Okay, about half of you. Yeah, so this is really good. A lot of us think we need that anger and we need that hatred to sort of take action on things. And in this class, we're going to learn instead to be motivated by love and compassion rather than hatred and anger. So you can hear a sound, allow it to be, realize it's a super grating sound. Maybe the neighbors are partying too hard in the apartment next door and it's 2 a.m. And you can lovingly go over and say, hey, you guys, it's 2 a.m. I think lights out is more like 1 o'clock. Can we like lower the music so I can't hear it? We can do it that way, still take action from love and compassion for ourselves and our needs. And that's hopefully what I was kind of hoping that these questions would get at, because ultimately this is a wonderful metaphor. How we relate to external sounds is a wonderful example of how to relate to the internal sounds we have of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. A lot of us have a lot of judgment about what feelings we allow ourselves to feel and which ones we don't. And this comes back to a lot of what's might be going on with you, Julie, where we just need to be aware, like, am I allowing these feelings to be? Can I function and allow them to be? And can I not identify with them so that I don't blame myself for having them? I don't blame my body for feeling this way. Now, it's much, much easier to do this with external sounds because we are less likely to identify with them. But we have spent our whole lives identifying with our thoughts and feelings. So that habit pattern in our brain is pretty solidified. And through this course, we're going to start to gently pull that apart, investigate it, figure out more skillful ways to handle it. Okay, so good job. Thanks for the meditation. The 5-minute meditation will have less investigation and it'll be more just focus on your breathing kind of thing. So if you didn't care for the investigation part, don't worry, I gotcha. And now let's get going on the talk for tonight. Do you want to live a fulfilling life, a life full of meaning, purpose, connection, and joy? Then keep listening. The key to living a fulfilling life is joyful service for other people, beings, and life forms. And I emphasize that the service must be joyful, to stress that the service not be motivated by obligation, duty, guilt, or fear, but from your boundless wellspring of inner love. But what do I mean by service? And how do we serve with skillful intentions? These questions and more will be addressed in this talk, and you might be surprised by some of the answers. So let's begin. Because Peace Pilgrim, this amazing woman, devoted her life to serving others, I am going to quote her extensively in this talk. So let me share with you some of her story just to familiarize yourself with her. On January 1st, 1953, at the age of 44, Peace Pilgrim started walking across the United States to spread the message, "This is the way of peace. Overcome evil with good, falsehood with truth, and hatred with love." During her pilgrimage, she carried no money and only had a few simple items. She walked until given shelter and fasted until given food. Moreover, she refused to ask for food and shelter. People needed to voluntarily offer them to her. And when no lodging was offered, she slept under bridges, on benches, in bus stops, truck stops, beaches, or on the side of the road. When no food was offered, she went without. Despite this, people who met her always found her to be joyful, friendly, and kind. In 1953, it took her 11 months and 17 days to walk from Pasadena, California, to the United Nations building in New York City. During this pilgrimage, she was interviewed by the media and invited to speak at churches, schools, and civic centers, all the while spreading her message of peace. Over the next 26 years of her life, she continued doing pilgrimages in the United States, Canada, and Mexico, walking over 25,000 miles. During her travels, she intentionally went to the bad parts of town where she felt her message was most needed. Can you even imagine? For me, the idea of sleeping outside for one night without my sleeping bag puts me on edge. What gave her the strength, courage, power, and tenacity to do what she did? I think that she had what Mahatma Gandhi would call soul force, the strength and power arising from her boundless inner love and wisdom. She gained this soul force from all of the spiritual growth and preparatory work she did during the first 44 years of her life. Now, she was not raised religious, which she said actually made her spiritual growth easier because she had less to unlearn. But in high school, she started investigating the question, what is God? Through her investigation and listening to her inner wisdom, she came up with an answer that grew and deepened over the years. Now, I know God talk can be triggering for those of us who've been harmed by organized religion. And if this is the case for you, then when the word God is used in this talk, please, please, please mentally substitute it with whatever word makes sense for you. That word could be life, love, truth, source, and so on. The words we use are not as important as the truth that the words are trying to point to. So just do your best to see that, okay? Good. All right. So through Peace Pilgrim's investigations, she discovered God is the intelligence that created all things, and that it is in all things, and it brings all things to life. God also created the physical and spiritual laws that govern the universe. She said we can know God as love, truth, kindness, and beauty. She said God is the, quote, ever-present, all-pervading essence or spirit, which binds everything in the universe together and gives life to everything in the universe. Now, this idea of God may be vastly different from what we've been raised on in different wisdom traditions, where we anthropomorphize God as like a, a giant human being in the sky. But this is what she came to understand through her investigation. And as she got older, her spiritual efforts intensified. She saw problems as opportunities for spiritual growth. She embraced unconditional love as a way to relate to all life. She simplified her material possessions and became vegetarian. She purified her thoughts and her motives behind her actions and more. Then one night after hiking, well, I should say one morning, because she hiked all night in the woods, she had this mystical event where she felt an inner peace and a oneness with all life, as well as the source of life. And this was unlike anything she had ever known before. She directly experienced that we are all one. And not long after this event, the idea for her pilgrimage came to her. Now, for those of us who believe in science and believe that we need to see and experience things directly, mystical stories can kind of be a bit of a problem. If others claim them, it can cause us to discount everything else that person has to say. And I know this because I used to think that way myself. Now, if this is you, I recommend that you just don't believe the mystical story. That's really not important. However, if the fruits of these people who have had these mystical experiences are helpful, like if their teachings are helpful and they don't advocate harming or causing harm, and they do a lot of good in the world, then we should really remain open to the teachings that these people have to offer. Moreover, please remain open to having a mystical experience, because once you experience one directly for yourself, then you can start to believe in them based on your own direct experience. All right, so to learn more about Peace Pilgrim's story and teachings, I encourage you to read her book, Peace Pilgrim, Her Life and Work in Her Own Words, which was created by friends of hers after she passed away. And you can get a free copy of it and find it in numerous different languages at peacepilgrim.org. I've always appreciated her simple and direct way of speaking and have learned so much from her. Returning to the topic at hand, what do we mean by service? According to Peace Pilgrim, there are two aspects of service. The first aspect is to do no harm, and all of us are called to do this. The second aspect is to actively benefit other beings and life forms out of love for their well-being. Now, all of us do this second type of service in a unique way according to the gifts that we've been blessed with. So let's talk about each one of these individually. Peace Pilgrim encouraged us to, quote, bring our lives into harmony with the laws that govern this universe. To the degree that we disobey these laws, we suffer, and that suffering pushes us towards obedience. To the degree that we obey these laws, we live in peace and thrive. Some of these laws include, in her words, the laws that evil can only be overcome by good, that only good means can attain a good end, that those who do unloving things hurt themselves spiritually. She adds, these laws are the same for all human beings and must be obeyed before harmony can prevail. This is why spiritual and religious wisdom traditions have moral codes, such as the 10 Commandments, the 5 precepts, and so on. These codes, with their rules like don't kill, don't steal, be honest, and so on, encourage us to not harm each other. And not harming each other is a huge gift. We all have the power to lie, steal, hurt, injure, and kill one another. To actively not do these things is a wonderful service. Any of us who have been harmed by another's unskillfulness can attest to this fact. Doing no harm helps others live in peace, security, and safety. And this is how we all want to live. So living blamelessly not only serves others in this way, but it frees us of the burdens of guilt and remorse. And this is one reason why meditation is an act of love for all life. We can do no harm sitting peacefully, eyes closed, cultivating our mindfulness, love, and wisdom. And in our culture, where much violence and oppression is done indirectly through our purchases, living simply and consuming less is very helpful in our efforts to do no harm. Now, moral codes, like the one that the great wisdom traditions offer, can be used skillfully or unskillfully. Used skillfully, moral codes help us live in harmony with each other, deepen our spiritual growth, and alert us to times when we are believing falsehoods. Many wisdom traditions and their followers use these moral codes in this way. Used unskillfully, moral codes falsely create a hierarchy of who is supposedly superior and who is supposedly inferior. Those judged worthy are afforded privileges. Those judged unworthy are oppressed, exploited, and harmed. This is unskillful, and we at the Boundless Love Project never use moral codes to judge, condemn, or justify inflicting cruelty on others. Now, you may have also noticed that I use the words skillful and unskillful a lot. And I use these words deliberately because I define them a very specific way. Something is skillful if it causes no emotional, psychological, or physical harm to other beings and life forms. In contrast, something is unskillful if it causes emotional, psychological, or physical harm to other beings or life forms. Moreover, these terms inherently recognize the worth and value of all beings and all life forms. In other words, being skillful does not make you better than anyone else, nor does being unskillful make you worse than anyone else. We all still deserve respect, kindness, and love, and getting our needs met, regardless of how skillful or unskillful we are. Too often, when someone judges someone as bad, wrong, or evil, they do so judgmentally as justification for oppressing, harming, or killing them. And when they judge themselves or their friends as good, right, or righteous, they do so judgmentally to justify their receiving special treatment and privileges not afforded to others. These hierarchies of value go against the universal law that life loves us all unconditionally. As Peace Pilgrim says, quote, "People see themselves at the center of the universe and judge everything as it relates to them. Naturally, you won't be happy that way. You can only be happy when you see things in proper perspective. All human beings are of equal importance in God's sight and have a plan to do in the divine plan." I'm sorry. And have a job to do in the divine plan. That makes a little more sense. And although she mentions the equality of humanity here, she readily admits that we are all one with all life, humans, animals, ecosystems, and that we need to love and respect the whole of creation. To emphasize this unity and inherent value of life, I use the words skillful and unskillful frequently, and minimize my use of the words like good and bad, right or wrong, righteous and evil, which many may hear and interpret in a judgmental way. Now, hearing all this, you may disagree and ask, but aren't good people better and more important than bad people? You know, that's a very common way to believe in our culture. And I'd respond that just as our thoughts are biologically and environmentally conditioned, as we learned in past weeks, so too are our behaviors. Think of the latest mass shooter, and unfortunately, these happen so frequently, it's going to change for people watching this recording. But if I had been born to his parents, been raised as he had been raised, had the experiences that he had, learned what he learned, been treated as he had been treated, suffered as he had suffered, then wouldn't I also think and behave the same way that he did? The life we live is due entirely to conditioning that was outside of our control. If we had a lot of good fortune, then we live a more skillful life. But how much good fortune and how much bad fortune we have in our life is really outside of our control. People who do mass shootings, they've had a lot of bad fortune in their life, and it's not their fault. So why devalue and punish those dealt a bad hand of cards? That just adds cruelty on top of cruelty. And as Mahatma Gandhi wisely said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. To remind us to be humble in our skillfulness and compassionate to those who are unskillful, use the slogan, "If not for my good fortune, I would be them." This slogan reminds us we are all products of our impersonal conditioning. If not for my good fortune, I would be them. Thankfully, our commitment to live with unconditional kindness helps us create good fortune for all whom we encounter. Now, before we go on, we need to ask some questions that I think might be on your mind. Like, am I saying we should let serial killers and mass shooters just run free and, do what they want? Absolutely not. If someone has harmed or is at risk of harming themselves or others, then our community should respond skillfully to stop them from causing further harm. And yes, this means some people may need to be imprisoned to protect the public safety. The difference in what I'm saying is, I advocate that our responses to unskillful people use the minimum amount of force, coercion, and violence necessary. I advocate that our judicial and penal system be focused on rehabilitation instead of punishment. I advocate that unskillful people be viewed as beloved children of life and treated with respect, kindness, and dignity by police, judges, prison guards, and everyone else. So I hope that clarifies things. We can definitely respond to mass shooters. We can definitely imprison them, and address them. But the idea that we just label them as bad people and chuck them away or execute them, like that is not in alignment with being unconditionally loving. So that's all I'm saying. Now, another question you may have listening to all this is, we all do harm to people, animals, and the planet, if not directly, then indirectly, by driving cars, using plastic, eating meat, and buying products like chocolate and clothes made from child labor, slave labor, or people working in inhumane sweatshops. Even paying taxes helps the military build weapons of mass destruction. In this interconnected world, is it possible to do no harm? And for those of us in an industrialized culture, this might be true. We still need to do our best. One of the best things we can do to reduce our consumption is live more simply. I'm sorry. One of the best things we can do about all of this is to reduce our consumption and live more simply. Peace Pilgrim said, "Simplify your life. There is a great freedom in simplicity. More possessions than you actually need burden you. Our possessions possess us when we keep them after they are no longer of use to us." Moreover, there are specific things we can do to address the above concerns. Some people work fewer hours and embrace voluntary poverty as a way to reduce their consumption, as well as their income, and not have to pay taxes that fund the military. Some people use transit or bikes or carpools and adopt a vegan diet to limit their carbon footprint. Some people purchase fair trade chocolate and only purchase clothes from brands that don't use child and sweatshop labor, or they buy their clothes from thrift stores. The point is, we can all do our best to limit the harm we cause. And for those issues like plastic usage, climate change, racism, animal agriculture, and all these other issues that require really community solutions, we can support those organizations working to address these issues and transform society. So I recommend you aim to give 10% or more of your income to such charities or to those beings who are in need. And the main point of all this is that we can all do better. And it is worth our effort to always compassionately be on the lookout for ways we can live that cause less and less harm. So again, be very compassionate with yourself in all of this. It's not about judging. It's not about blaming. It's just about leaning into love, leaning into compassion, leaning into service towards all life. Moving on, there are two other words worth defining: judgment and discernment. We define judgment as a falsehood that devalues a life form and views their needs as less worthy. Or judgment can also negatively define a situation and view it as problematic. And when I talk about life forms, I'm really meaning it in a very broad sense. I mean humans, animals, trees, lakes, ecosystems, and so on, as well as even the living parts of these life forms, such as thoughts, emotions, organs, cells, etc. We can relate to all of these things, everything, with love, or we can relate to it with judgment. In contrast to judgment, discernment describes our capacity to distinguish between what is skillful and what is unskillful, while recognizing the inherent worth of all individuals. Discernment is an important capacity to grow so we can serve all life. So sometimes people will use judgment in that way, like, oh, this person has good judgment. And just to keep things simple, in our community, we use judgment as a falsehood and discernment as that ability to distinguish between what's skillful and unskillful. Does that make sense? And doing it without judging or disparaging anyone. Okay, so given our desire to do no harm, some of us may actually need to find new work. If the job we have directly or indirectly contributes to harming, killing, or injuring life, we need to find a new job. And such a job is because such a job is completely out of alignment with these basic laws that Peace Pilgrim talked to us about. The Buddha taught the principle of wise livelihood, which means making sure our work does no harm and actively benefits others. He specifically listed 5 occupations that were prohibited because of the inherent harm they caused: trading in human beings, weapons, meat, intoxicants, and poison. If Buddha was alive today, he may also add to this list several other industries that didn't exist during his time, such as fossil fuels, animal research, telemarketing. I jest, but we can all probably think of industries that the world would be better with if they didn't exist. So whether or not your job is right livelihood or is not right livelihood, it's really up for you to decide. So put your investigation and discernment skills to use and find out. Maybe you are in a problematic industry, but maybe you're also positioned in that industry in a way to reform it so it does less harm, or to take that industry in a whole new direction away from all of the harm. So as always, as you do this discernment process, be compassionate with yourself and do your best. Peace Pilgrim reminds us, quote, "As long as you work for your selfish little self, you're way out of harmony. But as soon as you begin working for the good of the whole, you find yourself in harmony with all of your fellow human beings. It's the easy, harmonious way to live." So one act of service that we all need to do continuously is kindly, compassionately, and gently inventory our life, not to judge or beat ourselves up, but to simply discern how our choices negatively impact others. And then out of love, do what we can to be more skillful and do no harm. So that covers the do no harm aspect of service. In addition to not causing harm, we also need to actively benefit and serve others. Peace Pilgrim said, quote, "When you come into this world, your jobs in the divine plan are there. They just need to be realized and lived." She described these divine jobs as unique for every human life. This is because each one of us has been blessed with unique skills, talents, and interests that we may use to benefit others. She continued, "I'll give you an example of a woman who had some difficulty finding out what her job was in the divine plan. She was in her early 40s, single, and needed to earn a living. She hated her work to the extent that it made her feel sick. I asked what her calling was, and she said, 'I'm not called to do anything.' That was not true. What she really meant was that she didn't know her calling. So I asked her what she liked to do, because if it is your calling, you will do it as easily and as joyously as I walk my pilgrimage. I found she liked to do 3 things. She liked to play the piano, but wasn't good enough to earn her living at that. She liked to swim, but wasn't good enough to be a swimming instructor. And she liked to work with flowers. I got her a job in a florist shop so she could earn her living working with flowers. She loved it. She said she would do it for nothing. But we used the other things too. Remember, she needed more than just a livelihood. She needed other things. The swimming became her exercise. It fits in with sensible living habits. The piano playing became her path of service. She went to a retirement home and played the old songs for the people there. She got them to sing, and she was good at that. Out of those 3 things, such a beautiful life was built for that woman." So what are your skills and interests? And how are you using them to serve life? Now, many of you might have jobs that already serve people, but you may not be gaining fulfillment from that job if our motivations are unskillful. Let me try that once more. Many of us may have jobs that already serve people, but we may not gain any fulfillment from our jobs if our motivations are unskillful. Skillful motivation comes from our loving intentions to benefit others and their welfare. Unskillful motivations include greedy intentions to become wealthy, famous, or powerful, or aversive intentions, such as doing the work out of fear, obligation, duty, or a sense of guilt. These motivations are not aligned with the universal law of love, so they drain our energy and cause us to suffer. This is why at the Boundless Love Project, we talk about joyful service rather than just service. That's our way of saying that your service needs to be motivated by love rather than greed, fear, guilt, or obligation. Peace Pilgrim said, quote, "We tend to do things with very mixed emotions. I've never found a person who had purely bad motives. There may be such a person. I've never encountered one. I do encounter people who constantly have mixed motives, good and bad motives all mixed together." And here's an example from Peace Pilgrim of how one person switched from working with largely unskillful to more skillful motives. I knew a man who was a good architect. It was obviously his right work, but he was doing it with wrong motives. His motive was to make a lot of money and keep ahead of the Joneses. He worked himself into an illness, and it was shortly after that I met him. I got him to do little things for service. I talked to him about the joy of service, and I knew that after he had experienced this, he could never go back into really self-centered living. We corresponded for a bit after that. A few years later, I hardly recognized him when I stopped in to see him. He was such a changed man, but he was still an architect. He was drawing a plan, and he talked to me about it. "You see, I'm designing it this way to fit into their budget, and then I'll set it on their plot of ground to make it look nice." His motive was to be of service to the people he drew plans for. He was a radiant and transformed person. His wife told me that his business had increased because people were now coming to him from miles around for home designs. I've met a few people who had to change their jobs in order to change their lives, but I've met many more people who merely had to change their motive to service in order to change their lives. So as you go about your day, as you do the things you do, investigate your motives behind them by asking yourself, who or what does this activity serve? How can I use what I'm doing to create beloved community and serve all life? How is this an act of love? These investigations into your actions will help you identify the loving motives behind your skillful actions. The clearer you are on your loving motives, the more your behavior will align with these motives and better serve others and help you feel the joy and fulfillment that comes from service, from joyful service, that is. Now, I've worked at several jobs where you could make more money with less work if you lied, misled, or cheated people. Moreover, most of my colleagues participated in these practices. And it's always tempting to be unethical to benefit ourselves, especially when these practices seem to be industry norms. But it's hard to live a happy life when you cheat others, have secrets, and live in fear of being found out. Please don't end up like some of my coworkers who were on the evening news as part of an undercover investigation exposing their thieving. But for those of us who want to know real joy, we need to willingly live up to higher standards. So lovingly investigate your motives and the skillfulness of your service to others. And just imagine if we all live this way. Imagine a world where everyone treats all life with respect, dignity, and kindness. Imagine a world where everyone is honest with themselves and each other. Imagine a world where we all used our skills and talents to joyfully serve one another while doing no harm. If we lived this way, so much would become possible. Racial justice, ending hunger, ending homelessness, lasting peace between countries, protecting our climate, clean air, clean water, and healthy lands, the dignified treatment of our animal relations. We could truly create beloved community on a global scale if we all knew that the key to being fulfilled was a life of joyful service. Now, if this vision inspires you, then do as Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. Have every moment of your life be an act of service by doing no harm. Kindly investigate how to live more simply, more kindly, and do less harm. Aim to generously give 10% or more of your income to charities working to end harmful practices and that serve people, beings, and life forms, ecosystems, and all that in need. Then use your gifts of knowledge and talents to benefit those around you. And always investigate your motives to make sure you act from love for the well-being of others. You'll know you're doing it right when you feel joyful and fulfilled. Do no harm, serve others, purify your motives. This is the path of joyful service that is key to living a fulfilling life. And when we live this way, our lives spread good fortune to all whom we interact with. I leave you with these words from Peace Pilgrim. Think about all the good things of your life. Never think about your difficulties. Forget yourself and concentrate on being of service as much as you can in this world. And then, having lost your lower self in a cause greater than yourself, you will find your higher self, your real self. What I speak of is not an easy undertaking, but I can assure you that the end of your spiritual journey will be well worth the price paid. There are many hills and valleys. The struggle is like climbing, with each hilltop a little higher than the last. Let's take a mindful pause. Thank you, everyone. For this week, check out the Mindfulness Fundamentals webpage for your mindfulness mission. You'll have your new meditation and intention settings there. If you can send an evaluation, that would be great. This is week 6. And I always appreciate reading your comments on the evaluations for the class and sort of how things are going. So I'll put that link in the chat for you. And we're running over, so I'm going to do our closing meditation. If any of you have questions and want to stick around, I will definitely stick around to answer those. But for now, let's take a mindful pause. Our time together, learning how to come home to love, truth, and joyful service brings us many benefits. We freely share these benefits energetically with all beings and all life, that they too may benefit from our meditation practice. May all people, all beings, and all life be free from suffering, safe and protected, healthy and strong, peaceful and happy. Wonderful. Next week, we talk about aversion, disidentifying from our emotions, and the power of allowing thoughts and emotions to be without judging them before we skillfully respond to them. So please join us and do your best to do this week's mindfulness mission joyfully out of love for yourself and all life. Do your best to do the work kindly, patiently, lovingly, and persistently. And as always, if you do the work over time, you're going to enjoy the benefits, the many, many benefits. Be well. I love you and wish you peace, love, wisdom, and joy.
Look forward to seeing everyone at Arlie's.
Yeah, at least those of you who live in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop the recording here. If I figure out, and then we can all say goodbye and talk freely.